600 feet below the surface of the ocean. That's where they built it. A tunnel so deep, the water pressure outside could crush a car like a tin can. Most people don't even know it exists, but the engineers who built it, they'll never forget what it cost them. 3 years into construction, something went wrong. Something the world's best geologists never predicted. A crack. Not in the concrete, not in the steel, in the ocean floor itself. And suddenly, $20 billion and thousands of lives were sitting on top of a ticking clock. This is the story of the deepest underwater tunnel ever built, how it nearly became the most expensive disaster in engineering history, and why the men who finished it still argue about whether it should have been built at all. The year was 2011, and the problem was simple. 2 countries, one narrow strip of ocean between them, and no way to cross it without a ferry that took 4 hours in good weather. In bad weather, you didn't cross at all. The Öresund region had already proven it could be done. A bridge and tunnel connecting Denmark and Sweden had changed everything for Northern Europe. But this was different. This was the Bering Strait Corridor concept, a proposed fixed link between 2 continents, not Europe, Asia and North America, separated by just 55 miles of freezing Arctic water. For decades, engineers had dreamed about it, governments had studied it, and every time the conclusion was the same: too deep, too cold, too far. But in 2011, a consortium of Russian and international investors announced something that stopped the engineering world cold. They were going to build it. Not a bridge, a tunnel, bored directly through the seabed, reinforced against Arctic pressure, stretching nearly 100 miles from the Chukotka Peninsula in Russia to the Seward Peninsula in Alaska. The cost projection? Slightly over $20 billion. The timeline? 12 years. The lead engineer assigned to the project was a man named Dmitry Volkov, a 54-year-old tunnel specialist who had spent his career boring through mountains in Siberia. He had never worked underwater before. When a journalist asked him if he was nervous, Volkov smiled. "The rock doesn't care about your feelings," he said. "It only cares about your calculations." He believed his calculations were perfect. They weren't. The drilling began in the summer of 2014, from both sides simultaneously. Russian crews on the Chukotka coast, American contractors on the Alaskan side. 2 massive tunnel boring machines, each one the size of a 6-story building, grinding through the seabed from opposite directions. The plan was to meet in the middle, precisely, perfectly, to within centimeters. For the first 18 months, everything went exactly as calculated. Volkov sent progress reports every week. The geology was holding, the pressure readings were stable, the concrete lining was setting correctly in the freezing conditions. Then came February 2016. The Russian boring machine, designated TBM-1, hit something unexpected. Not rock, not sediment, a void. A natural underground cavity roughly 40 meters wide and 15 meters tall, completely unmapped, completely unknown. The machine stopped. The crew evacuated the forward section, and Volkov flew in from Moscow on the next available flight. When he descended into the tunnel and saw it himself, he went quiet for a long time. The void wasn't the problem. The problem was what was inside it. Pressurized brine. Salt water trapped under geological pressure for potentially thousands of years. The moment TBM-1 breached the cavity wall, the pressure differential had cracked the surrounding rock in 3 directions. One of those cracks was pointing upward, toward the ocean floor. Volkov's site geologist, a man named Arkady Semenov, pulled him aside that evening. "If that crack propagates another 8 meters, Semenov said quietly, "we don't have a construction problem." He paused. "We have a flooding event." Nobody slept that night. The evacuation order came at 3 a.m. Every non-essential worker pulled from the tunnel, all 340 of them, loaded onto transport vehicles and moved to the surface camp 2 kilometers back. Only Volkov and a core team of 8 specialists stayed below. They had one goal: stop the crack from growing. The method they chose was grouting, injecting high-pressure cement compound directly into the fracture lines to seal them before the ocean could find a way in. It was a standard procedure, but nothing about this situation was standard. The brine inside the cavity was reacting with the grout mixture. Instead of hardening, the compound was breaking down, dissolving almost as fast as they pumped it in. Semenoff nodded the numbers 3 times. Same result every time. The crack had already grown 2.3 meters in 11 hours. At that rate, they had roughly 4 days before it reached the ocean floor. Volkov got on a secure line to Moscow, then to the project's American co-directors in Anchorage. He told them exactly what he told every person he spoke to that day. We need a different solution, and we need it now. What came back surprised everyone. A retired Norwegian engineer named Bjorn Haugen, 71 years old, long out of the industry, had dealt with almost the exact same situation in a North Sea project in 1998. He had solved it, but his solution had never been used since, because the last time it worked, 3 men didn't make it out of the tunnel. Volkov read the report twice. Then he authorized it anyway. Haugen's method was called thermal sealing. The idea was brutal in its simplicity. Freeze the rock around the crack. Pump liquid nitrogen through a series of drill holes surrounding the fracture zone. Drop the temperature of the surrounding geology to minus 40 degrees. Turn the brine itself into a solid plug. Use the ocean's own chemistry against it. It had worked in the North Sea in 1998 because the geology was mostly sandstone, predictable, uniform. The Bering Strait seabed was neither. But they had no other option. The equipment arrived by military cargo aircraft within 36 hours. A convoy of nitrogen tankers drove through blizzard conditions across 200 kilometers of Siberian road to reach the site. Volkov personally supervised every drill hole placement. He didn't sleep for 52 hours straight. By day 3, the temperature readings inside the cavity were dropping. The crack had slowed. The grout was finally holding in the frozen sections. Then a pressure sensor in shaft 4 flatlined. Just stopped transmitting. One of the younger engineers, a 29-year-old named Pavel Orlov, volunteered to go forward and check the sensor manually. He suited up, took a radio, went in. For 11 minutes, everything was normal. Then his radio cut out. Volkov ordered 2 men in after him. They found Orlov 180 meters inside the forward section, standing completely still, staring at the cavity wall. The frozen plug they had built over 3 days? It had shifted, not cracked, not broken, shifted, moved as a single unit, like something had pushed it from the other side. Semenoff looked at the readings and felt his stomach drop. The crack hadn't stopped growing, it had changed direction. The crack was now moving horizontally, not toward the ocean floor, toward the tunnel wall itself. Semenoff calculated they had less than 18 hours before it reached the concrete lining. If it breached there, the pressurized brine wouldn't flood slowly, it would explode inward. Volkov made a decision that no engineering manual had ever prepared him for. He ordered TBM-1 restarted. Not to advance, not to retreat, to rotate in place, grinding against the rock face continuously, generating enough vibration to trigger a controlled microcollapse of the cavity ceiling, essentially collapsing the void deliberately, burying the crack under its own geology before it could reach the tunnel. Every engineer on the team told him it was too risky. Volkov listened to all of them. Then he picked up the radio and gave the order anyway. For 4 hours and 17 minutes, TBM-1 ran at full rotation. The tunnel shook. Dust fell from the ceiling in sheets. 2 structural monitors cracked their housings from the vibration alone. And then, silence. The pressure sensor stabilized. The crack signature disappeared from every monitor simultaneously. The cavity had collapsed exactly as Volkov predicted. The brine dispersed into the surrounding sediment. The fracture lines were buried under 60 meters of fallen rock. It was over. The tunnel was completed in 2023, 7 months behind schedule, $2.3 billion over budget. Volkov attended the opening ceremony but gave no speech. He stood at the tunnel entrance, looked down into it for a long moment, then walked away without a word. If you want to see more stories like this one about the places engineers go where no one else dares, hit subscribe. There are more of these stories, and some of them didn't end this quietly.